Now presenting Minutes with Michael, with your host, Michael. Hello and welcome back to Minutes with Michael. I'm going to try to be brief. This is the post-workout edition. We've already gotten a dose of humor from yesterday's Get Fit with Mike Britt. And so today I want to begin our COVID conspiracy series. It'll be a 2 or 3-parter. I have one question I want to answer and then a side issue that we'll jump into about the treatment of animals. You say, why? Well, we'll get there when we get there. The question we're going to answer, where did the coronavirus come from? Did it come from a lab or did it come from a bat? Well, the genetics say bat, and here's why. If you take apart this virus and look at the genes, you'll find that it's 96% similar to a virus already found in and carried by bats. And so it's very likely that this gene mutated or adapted or natural selection, whatever word you want to use, when it was ingested by a human or in contact with a human. Something happened there that often happens in nature with interaction between two species, to which one's ecology is different from the other, one's virus habitat is different than the other, and those two things merge. You have a mutation of a virus, and boom, all of a sudden you've got, SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, as we call it now in the media and everything. They probably found the scariest one they could use, right? And use that one for clicks and watches and stuff. But that being said, it likely came from a bat. You say, but I thought it was made in a lab by people trying to bring down America's economy. China hates us. Well, I guess it's a possibility, but the science really does seem to indicate otherwise. And if you don't trust the guys in the lab coats, then trust Francis Collins. He's the head of the National Institute of Health and a born-again Christian. If you don't trust his results, which I don't even agree with all of his results when it comes to science and evolution and things like that. At least trust his integrity. He's not trying to mislead anyone. He's trying to uncover the truth about the novel coronavirus that we're encountering this year. So when I started thinking about, did somebody actually eat a bat? Some would say, well, that's gross, you shouldn't eat bats. Well, I don't know that we can actually form an ethical or biblical stance saying don't eat bats, period. I think they should be cooked. We do see some pattern like that in the scriptures, Old Testament and New Testament both. They cook the things, not just for ceremonial purposes, but probably for health purposes as well. So yeah, probably cook it. But you say, well, isn't it an unclean animal? No, that was always a moral issue. It sounds like I ate bats myself. It was always like a moral issue or a ceremonial issue in the Old Testament. There were certain clean and unclean animals, and that may have crossed into health areas, pork and things like that, and shellfish and all that. However, we do see that when Peter encountered God, God said, rise, Peter, kill and eat. And there were all kinds of animals. And Peter said, no way. And God was trying to use this to teach Peter a lesson. Don't call things unclean that I've called clean. And so this was God not changing his mind, but releasing Peter from the status quo of the Jewish dietary laws. And of course, this thought was followed up in the Jerusalem Council. So I want to address the issue of eating animals, period. Yes, if they're cooked, yes, if it's safe, sure. But eating animals, some people say, man, it's just not moral to eat animals. To which I would actually respond with this question that I see as an immediate defeater of your argument. You say it is immoral to eat animals. I would say, well, where do you base your morals on? If you base them on the Christian standards, if you base them on the Hebrew Bible, if you base them on the God of the Israelites and the God of the Christians today, then you don't have a leg to stand on, because it's that same God that actually commanded the Jews to eat animals. It not only gave permission, but commanded the Passover. They were to kill a precious, little, perfect, spotless lamb. And that was done. And you say, that offends my sensibilities. Good, that's the point, because Jesus would come and die, and that was supposed to offend our sensibilities even more, that this precious, perfect, spotless lamb was going to die to take away the sins of the whole world. That was the whole idea. But you say, well, in the New Testament it's different, especially after the resurrection. No, I would argue not, particularly because eating animals is still a thing. And then we saw, just a second ago, we talked about Peter, how he was being told by God to eat these animals. And then Jesus himself ate fish after his resurrection. And so you say, well, I'm a Christian, I don't believe we should eat animals. That's fine, but those two things don't go together, because Jesus Christ ate animals. Now, I think we'd have a very strong arguing point for the humane treatment of animals, whether they're pets or whether they're led to the slaughter. We ought to treat our animals correctly and as humanely as possible in either of these scenarios. That being said, I don't buy the PETA videos where they show these animals wallowing around in self-existential crises. They're not that self-aware to be considering, their lineage and heritage and possessions and children and, oh man, where am I going to go when I die? Animals don't have that kind of self-consciousness. The best scholars and scientists, whether they're Christian or atheist or anywhere in between, all agree that animals, while they can feel pain, they don't suffer from the existential crises of pain. There's a whole big thing there, and in another take, I went into it a little bit more, but I want to keep this shorter. So that's the answer to COVID conspiracy question number 1. Did it come from a lab from Wuhan, China? People trying to destroy us and ruin our economy? I don't think so, no. I wouldn't put it past any fallen human, just like you and I, but the evidence doesn't right now point that way. If anything changes, you'll be the first to hear it from me, right? I'll be the first to share it with you. And then on that, super quick, you say, well, the coronavirus, man, them Chinese people. It's not Chinese people. If anything, it was a couple of wackos in a lab. And we are going to cover this later on in the COVID conspiracy theories, is how the Chinese government handled this virus. Doesn't appear to have handled it correctly at all. So could they be trying to use it to mean it? Well, we'll talk about that. But it's not the Chinese people's fault. Just like you say, man, I didn't like President Obama. Well, you didn't vote for him. You know what I mean? Well, I don't like Donald Trump. Well, you didn't vote. You know, let's not associate all the people in a country with a bad move on the part of some leaders or scientists, you know. Anyway, so I wanted to tackle that real quick with you. We're making good time. Let me take my note, going through my notes here. Oh, yeah, okay. I skipped a lot. Anyway, book recommendation. I had one. I pulled it up, and now I'm forgetting what it was because I actually have it blank in my notes. It was, give me just a second here. I didn't see it, but I remember what it was when I saw the Kindle page. Old Testament is Narrative by John Sailhammer. Amazing. Read it. It will change the way. Listen, this is a big claim. It will change the way you view the Pentateuch. It's a Pentateuch narrative. It'll change the way you view the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah and the Hebrew Bible, as narrative. You gotta view them as one complete work. And honestly, even though the JEDP hypothesis has gained a little bit of traction and lost it since, John Sailhammer's book basically sets the case for, even if there is some truth to the JEDP hypothesis, that's the fact, that's the idea that all of these, that the Torah has all of these different authors and sources and things. And while I agree there's obvious redactions in addition, I believe they were always intended to be viewed as one complete work with Moses as the primary figure in authorship. So, great book. It's called The Pentateuch Narrative. It's by John Sailhammer, and it's a tremendous read. Really, if you're serious at all about Hebrew study, Hebrew Bible study, Old Testament study, grab this book. It looks a little older. It is a little older, but it's really, really good. Okay, that's Minutes with Michael. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me. Tomorrow we'll tackle question number 2 of the COVID conspiracy, which I'm not even going to reveal. You got to be here tomorrow for the question and the answer. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be kind, do right, do justly, love mercy, walk humbly. Have a wonderful day. This has been Minutes with Michael, with your host, Michael.